You have got to be kidding me. Look, how many times do I have to say it? We stand to gain more from doing this charity mission legally. Why? Because your moronic idea is nothing more than profiteering on fear, while mine will allow us to establish good relations with Shalani refugees and use it to get better deals with the government. So kindly stop your... Wait, what the hell is going on? Where am I? Just a moment. There, everything seems to be functioning properly. Good day to you, Councillor Rashid, and thank you for choosing our Platinum Restoration package. We in Silent Cybernetic Solutions are pleased to serve you. Serve me? What the hell are you talking about, son? I demand explanation. Where am I and why can't I move? And be quick about it, I have a business meeting soon. Of course, Mr. Rashid. You are in SCS headquarters on Atanua station. You cannot move because your motor systems are still powering up, and I am afraid that all your plans must be put on hold because marshals will want to speak with you as soon as you're up. Marshals? What could they want with me? And more importantly, what am I doing here? I was on Ortis a minute ago. Not exactly, Mr. Rashid. As for your questions, the answer is the same to both of them. We were forced to trigger your restoration package, so naturally authorities would like to find out why. Son, you have exactly 1 minute to start making sense, or I will make sure that the marshals will have a talk with you as well. What restoration package? My apologies. I should have realized that a busy man such as yourself would not have time to familiarize himself with the manual, so allow me to explain. When you purchased our neural implant, you also subscribed to a mandatory restoration package, best version in your case. What this means is that, at all times, your implant sends off a signal that can be monitored by the government. It's nothing special, just a little "I exist" message to the universe, but should that signal suddenly go down, interesting things start to happen. In such case, your implant will use its backup battery to send a distress signal to nearest marshal station. They will then immediately investigate your last known location and try to recover you. In your case, I am afraid to say they found your... how do I put it, remains in a state of disarray, and confirmed that our implant, and by extension your brain, were in a state in which restoring them would be impossible, even with best medical knowledge. Wait, what? Son, are you telling me that I died? Even if that was true, and I'm sure I would remember such an important event in my life, how would you explain that I'm here talking to you right now? Again, it's simple. Your implant was constantly monitoring your brain activity and every 24 hours created a copy of your consciousness that was then sent directly into our databanks where it replaced version from the previous day. Could you tell me what you were doing before you wake up here, and at what hour? I was on call with one of my business associates, and I think it was sometime around autumn midnight. There we go then. That must have been the moment when said copy of your consciousness has been uploaded to us, which means that whatever bad thing happened to you happened within next 24 hours. You, however, have no memory of it because we had to restore you to the version from the last midnight. And as for you being dead, I am afraid that this is a bit more complicated question, and I am just a technical specialist. But there is no need to worry, your Platinum package also conveniently includes psychological support, provided by the best professionals, and they will surely help you make sense of all this in no time. If you'd ask me though, I'd say that no, you are not dead. You were in your home, you blinked, and now you're here a day later. Odd, sure, but there are weirder things happening around us. Just think of it like an instant post-party blackout. Happens to the best of us. Oh, and, well, I suppose the new cybernetic body may take some getting used to, but I assure you it is of the best quality, superior to your old organic form in all respects. But it's metal. Am I even still human anymore? Now, that depends only on you and how you feel. The processes in your new cybernetic brain are exactly the same as in your old organic one, but, as I said, our psychologists will surely explain all those difficult emotions you must feel right now far better than I ever could. Before that, however, you really should have a talk with the marshals, if only to figure out what exactly happened to you. Yes, I suppose I should, not to mention that I'd prefer to get my body back from them. Of course, if any of your organic parts are still operational, we can reattach them at your discretion, though I'm not sure why anyone would want that. I can see that. Okay, fine then, you can tell the badgers I'm here. But one question before that. I have this Platinum package, so I get reborn into this new body with no issues. What happens to those who can only afford basic option? Why, they are restored within the next 24 hours as well. After all, it would be cruel to keep citizens unplugged for extended amounts of time. Only difference is their bodies. The one you received is of the best quality and it belongs to you. The same is true for those with basic package, but after they're restored they have to pay it off in whatever way they find possible. May not be the best option, sure, but I'd say it's a decent deal. After all, if you lost your life, it's only fair that you pay for getting a second chance. Hello and welcome back everyone. We are back to Second Chance, but as you remember, we do not return in a good time. A few years back, our first galactic enemies, the fanatically religious Draken Union, have apparently sacrificed themselves in order to summon the manifestation of their god, the light, into our galaxy, in order to seemingly purify it from the enigmatic darkness, whatever it may be. Now, whether this religious dogma is true or not, it is undeniable that the light exists, and it is an extremely powerful entity, capable of dishing out extreme damage and even able to wipe out life on entire planets in a matter of hours. In fact, a few months ago, we have witnessed this very destructive power with our own eyes, as the light engulfed Shalani planet of Nidira, located very close to our borders, and, a mere hour later, the entire world has been cleared of all life forms, becoming a silent grave of 21 billion people, shrouded in impenetrable mist. So, that's the enemy that we now have to contend with, but, in a way, we are still lucky. The light might have passed through our territory a few times already, and it even destroyed some of our border defensive stations, but so far it left our planet alone, which gives us a chance to build up our military in order to prepare for its inevitable arrival. Because of that, Curaçao shipyards are working night and day without a break, desperately trying to get as many ships as possible in combat shape. Although, ever since the scorching of Nidira, more and more of our people demanded that our other spaceports should join production efforts as well. Curaçao may produce best ships in the Commonwealth, maybe even in the entire galaxy, but right now perfectionism may not be the best way to go. So, as we speak, this topic is discussed in the council halls, or rather it has been discussed, because in recent weeks we have witnessed yet another unexpected development, a frantic message from Dis Ravagers in the far galactic north, the very first recorded one that wasn't an insult, threat or outright declaration of war. Long story short, it appears that, after it destroyed Nidira, the light moved north, and after disappearing into Shizri space, it must have somehow made its way into this territory. The Ravagers tried to fight it, but have apparently failed, and the commander of their fleet, clearly terrified by what they saw, must have sent that message all across the galaxy. A clear sign that whatever happened there was bad enough that it overwritten this hatred of all other races. Now, we do not know exactly what happened, or why, but one thing is sure. Our sensors are now picking new signals from these core territories, and said signals are disconcerting to say the least. From what we're able to tell, this system of Enuis is now home to hundreds of bizarre energy signatures, some small and mobile, some large and stationary, but all of them unlike anything we have ever seen before. In fact, some of the largest ones seem to defy the very laws of physics, same as the light. More than that, our audio sensors have picked up a constant wailing howl emanating from this system, one that appears to be audible all across the galaxy. So, whatever that Draken apparition did there, it cannot be good, and we should keep an eye on it. Sadly, Enuis system is way beyond the range of our sensors, and even beyond sensors of Fafsim Dominion, the nation closest to this, so all that we have for now are speculations. But perhaps there is something we can do, namely finish constructing our sentry array, which will let us see what's going on out there. It may not help us in our fight against the light, but it could help us monitor its movement and prepare for its arrival. Also, speaking of the light, we have noticed yet another mysterious entity very similar to it, located in Shizri-owned Tazri system, orbiting shrouded ruins of former Zrakan planet named Quenigir-Gam. Now, when we first noticed this thing, we were terrified that the light has somehow multiplied, but fortunately, further readings showed us that this new entity is much smaller and, in all probabilities, far less powerful than the original, though still strong enough to give us some serious trouble. Perhaps the Zraken of this planet have conducted their own ritual and summoned a discount version of the light. Or perhaps there is a completely different reason altogether. There is one good thing about it though. While the light may be rampaging all across the galaxy, this smaller being seems to be stationary. So that's a blessing. Last thing we need is for the light to have an entourage of its smaller clones. But that is not the end of bad news, as it seems that the galaxy is becoming more dangerous and insane with every passing day. As you may remember, after destruction of Nidira, the Shalani fleet tried to pursue the light for a while in order to exact revenge, though fortunately we managed to talk them out of it. However, while they were still chasing it, they got close to Nivogi Black Hole, and there they spotted something straight out of worst nightmares, an outlandish black mass that formed some sort of Chthonian monstrosity that appeared to be only partially located within our reality, with the rest of it hidden in the black hole's accretion disk. Shalani took one look at it and called a full retreat, and even implemented a full military cordon around this system to make sure that some overly curious citizen won't try to approach this thing. But before they left, our allies launched several probes to try and make sense of this new danger. Then they looked at the readings. Then they got confused and asked our scientists to look at the readings as well, but after taking one glance, our best minds just shivered in fear. Turns out, the very reality around this being is distorted in ways that, no matter how we look at it, shouldn't be possible. So there's a good chance that this is some sort of a visitor from completely different universe, maybe even a different reality or dimension. Although, as you might expect, those are just hypotheses, thrown into the wind in hopes of masking our complete lack of understanding of this thing. Still, its very appearance proves to be somewhat disturbing in more ways than one. What if Zraken fanatics were actually correct? After all, if the darkness truly does exist, it probably looks just like that thing. But in that case, it would really be nice if it and the light could just keep this between themselves without bringing us into their conflict. Still, it does open some opportunities. Maybe all we have to do here is to guide the light in the direction of that thing and then just let them fight. And speaking of fighting, you can also see our latest militarization efforts, and at a first glance they may appear odd because instead of producing massive capital ships, our dockyards are focused on construction of a swarm of torpedo corvettes. There is a reason for that though. As you may remember, when the light attacked our border stations, our weapons were unable to break through its protective energy field, which functions almost exactly like our deflector shields. Torpedoes, however, are equipped with powerful short-range disruptors and can pass through shields. Well, regular ones at least. We have no idea if it will actually work against the light, but it's still a better alternative than just hopelessly firing at its force field without doing anything. And for the same reason, once our first squadron of corvettes is deployed, we will also construct some additional carriers, because the siege lasers of their bombers can cut through shields as well. Aside from that, we noticed that the light projects this energy field hundreds of kilometers away from its, well, body is probably not the correct description, but it will have to do. And while capital ships could never hope to get this close, our strike craft can do it easily. So who knows, perhaps the light will be brought down not by a massive battleship, but by a single kid in a fighter craft. Additionally, there is a more economical benefit to be gained from our new militarization. Simply put, by now our national economy is so strong that we save enough funds and resources to build, say, a carrier way faster than we can actually construct it. That enables Commonwealth to still upgrade our fleet while also pursuing other projects, and as you can see, we decided to once again send tons of resources to our sentry array, if only to, as was said, use it as an early warning system. Of course, if we ever decide that quantity is more important than quality and start building warships in our other, more civilian-oriented shipyards, then this will obviously change, but at the very least we took another step in our overarching goal of understanding the galaxy. With a bit of luck, this sentry array may even provide us with an answer to our questions about the light and those mysterious signals from the north. Now though, there is a very specific reason why our economy skyrocketed so much in recent years. Namely, the fact that we have finished the first part of our artificial ascension project and, by now, overwhelming majority of our population have merged their biological bodies with our best and most advanced machines. It's not anything new really, we have been using cybernetic implants and limbs for decades now, but thanks to this project we can now link our very brains with our computers, or even outright replace them with cybernetics in order to greatly improve their performance and almost completely stop their aging. Even bringing dead people back to life is possible now, although that part will probably be disputed for years to come. But regardless, it means that citizens of the Commonwealth, not only humans but all other races as well, have reached another level of evolutionary ladder. And once all is said and done, it takes only a quick look at our people to see that we are now completely different races, stronger, more efficient and resilient, and better suited to life as an interstellar society. It is not, however, a perfect solution, not yet at least. While we can develop artificial brains and transfer our consciousness there, we are still unable to develop a truly sentient, self-aware and self-determined AI. Our new fancy brains may be made out of metal now, but they still function like our old organic ones. So, because we can only transfer minds of our people and not create them from scratch, we are still unable to completely switch to cybernetics, because in order to produce more citizens we actually need to bring them to life in a messy, old-fashioned way. And then we actually have to give them a chance to develop and grow up, and as such, together with nationwide cybernetization, the Council has also passed another law, one that states that citizens must retain their organic brains for at least 35 years in order to ensure they're fully developed before switching to synthetic ones. And, of course, all that doesn't mean that everyone in our society now has a processor inside their head. Switching to cybernetics is encouraged but not enforced, and at this point the vast majority of Commonwealth citizens simply enjoy regular neural implants that increase their overall efficiency while still keeping their most important organic part intact. But there is an issue, and it is one brought to us by the scourge of all civilizations far and wide: bureaucracy. Turns out that because we are now technically a different species, somewhere in the Byzantine maelstrom of our national paperwork, someone decided that we need different names to ensure that there is no confusion and that all papers are in order. Good idea in theory, but there are two problems. One, whoever thought up these names was clearly going through some edgy phase in their lives, because they decided on rather odd-sounding titles like Queptilium Mutatis or Human Illustratum or Meta Utkavongo. Now, that in itself would be alright, but thing is, our systems do not recognize these names, which leads to another set of problems. Namely, because our computers failed to realize that our new citizens are in fact our old citizens, only with different names, they automatically attached the placeholder set of laws to them, which means that, for almost a year, practically no person in the Commonwealth had a right to vote. The mistake was detected very quickly, but the process of actually fixing it took months, and ended up with a number of people getting fired in a very spectacular way. By now, though, we were able to get everything in order, and in a way, it is a reassuring thought. If we still make clerical errors like this, then it means that we are still good old fallible humans. Or, well, illustratum humans. We really need to find a new name for ourselves. Still though, the way to differentiate is actually necessary, because there are other humans out there, ones who were born in the Commonwealth, or even old OCN, but decided to migrate to other nations like Allier Commune or Gir Compact. And considering that many of them left our country decades ago, they are, by now, far different from our own citizens. For example, the majority of humans who live in the Allier Commune have traveled there even before we began our widespread gene therapies, and so they still bear the same deficiencies that our people have endured ever since fleeing from Earth to Ortus. The ones in Gir territory, on the other hand, have moved away after we refined our DNA, which means that, all across the galaxy, there are now 3 or 4 or even 5 variants of humanity. Who knows, maybe, as time goes by, there will be even more. It will be interesting to see how our people will develop far away from home, and thanks to our life-prolonging technology, we may even see it happen naturally. So as you can see, despite all the horrible things that happen all across the galaxy, the Commonwealth still tries to keep some vestiges of normalcy, and no wonder. After all, it's months or even years between sightings or attacks of the light, so we can't just expect our people to be constantly on high alert during that time, or we would probably stress them out to death. Because of that, we still have a number of civilian projects going on, including of terraforming of Bardigan Prime, located near Katanab. Interestingly, this is the world that we have actually terraformed twice by now. First time we accidentally caused an extinction of some local pre-sentient species, and now, second time, in order to turn it into glacial world that would be perfect for our Vryn citizens. Because, like the Lunessi, they also need the planet of their own, so they could develop some independent thinking and culture. Because right now, while no longer completely inert, they still tend to rely on other races a bit too much. So we hope that by giving them a place they could call their own, we will help out with that. And even further to the north, our diplomatic delegation has just finalized the deal between Commonwealth and the last Tezhnit king, officially bringing what little is left of his battered realm into our nation. The king will now retire to live his remaining years in peace, and he refused to be implanted with our life-prolonging technology, and it's actually rather understandable, considering that he is not only the last king, but also the very last one of his entire species, with all of his kind slaughtered by Dis Ravagers. Instead, his people, the Mishar, a slightly less advanced but very physically competent race, will become our citizens, although, given the distance between our core territory and their lands, we're going to give them a great deal of authority, especially since, by now, they already had to run the country themselves for years. We're still going to have to establish our own presence there, mostly in order to better understand our new humanoid citizens and their culture, but also to bring their planet, which saw several disinvasions by now, to modern standards. Most importantly though, we will also have to bring Mishar military up to speed, though according to our delegates, these people turn out to be surprisingly advanced in this matter. Together with their territory, we also gained their fleet, and while it's not really impressive when compared to, say, Task Force Manticore, it is still surprisingly powerful for such a small country. They even have a battleship, something that is exceedingly rare, so once we upgrade all their internal systems, this fleet should actually become a worthy addition to our own forces. Still though, we're going to have to establish far stronger defenses there. After all, this territory is located right next to this border, not to mention those anomalous signals that seem to be expanding across the north, so it may be prudent to develop an entire defensive network there, maybe even with several merit citadels. But while our military minds were developing a plan on how to set these fortifications up, we received another message, this time from Eurispace. Apparently, a Thadrakos slave ship has entered our territory and, to our surprise, offered to sell us a prisoner. Now, we don't really deal with slavers, so the captain of that ship received one warning to piss off and never return, but he proved to be surprisingly insistent, going so far as to gifting us this slave, whom he called the most wanted creature in the galaxy. And when the shuttle arrived on Uri world of Ur-Idra, our authorities took one look at that prisoner and decided that, in this case, we are going to engage in slave trading, and Thadrakos' captain has been given a sum that would enable him to buy a quarter of a planet back home. And once the prisoner was safely locked up in the most secure cell on the entire planet, the governor of Ur-Idra decided that now is the moment when we contact the highest authorities.
So then, councillors, now you can see for yourself why I requested to handle this interrogation personally. Well, as personally as it can be across hundreds of light years. I know that this should best be left to professionals, but by the time we bring that prisoner here, it may be too late for all of us. Besides, neither marshals nor triggers from Ur-Idra managed to get any kind of response, so I hope that talking with someone with authority will do the trick. Probably not, but it's worth a shot. Alright, everything's ready. Get it on screen.
Ah, the leader of human shadows finally shows its face. Have you come to beg for forgiveness, to atone for your sins, to purify yourself before the light will do it for you? It is not yet too late for you and your misguided people to repent, to stand together with servants of the light. But if you wish absolution, then you must first come to us personally. After all, true devotion requires sacrifices.
Is that what you think I called you for, Zrakan? To listen to your preaching that all people in the galaxy have heard thousands of times before?
No, I am here to understand, and right now I want to know how can you still worship that thing after everything it has done, not only to the other nations but to your own people. Surely you must know that it slaughtered everyone within the Union.
Slaughtered? Of course, it was obvious that a corrupted shadow like yourself would not understand. You probably found the message that this heretical fool Lunga broadcasted shortly before we awoke the light. To think that our very best, most devoted wise one would be corrupted in the final moments, nearly destroying hope for all that is good among the stars in the process. It was only thanks to our vigilance that he was stopped, and you too should rejoice because of it. And as for our garden, they were not killed, human, but exalted, chosen to join their power with that of the everlasting light in its never-ending crusade against darkness. Their souls now resonate within the radiance and guide the light towards those still worthy of salvation.
Is this why the light moves so randomly? Because it looks for worthy ones?
Yes, you finally begin to understand, human shadow. The radiance feels all those whose souls are not yet polluted, and it ventures to unite with them. Only then, when all worthy ones will stand side by side within the light, it will begin its crusade. It may take tens or hundreds of cycles, but in the end, darkness will be banished from these stars, and we will finally join the exalted ones.
We? So there is more of you. How many?
Enough to see our holy mission to the end, Shadow, no matter how long it takes. Although, I'll admit, I do feel envy when I think of all those who are already exalted. But it matters not. Our mission is more important than envy, for in the end it will benefit all. So repent, Shadow, cast out your wicked ways, embrace the light and show true devotion, and perhaps, when the time comes, you too shall stand together with all of us. Persist, and Light's servants will extinguish you forever. You can already hear their song resonating on the solar winds.
So that's what those bizarre readings from this territory indicate. And here I thought we won't get any useful information out of you. As Commonwealth's chief interrogator said, it's always good to just let them ramble on. And besides, you do not have to worry, Zrakan, for we, the entire Commonwealth, plan to show true devotion to you. The devotion to justice. If you truly feel that everything you've done is justified, then you are wrong. We will chase you to the edges of the galaxy, or the edges of the universe itself if need be, and we will bring you to justice for all the lives you have ruined.
Petty threats, expected from a broken creature such as yourself. Know that not one of us fears death, for through our sacrifice all that is good will be saved. But by all means, Shadow, do try to exact your vengeance. It would truly be a glorious sight to see your corrupted fleet decimated by the Guardian provided by Light's caretakers. Perhaps that would finally open your eyes, assuming you could even find our sanctuary.
I think we will have no problem with that. Surely by now you have noticed all that machinery our technicians attached to your head.
Your pathetic torture device will have no effect on me, Shadow, for I am blessed by the Radiance. Do your worst.
Torture device? No, this little miracle is a neural scanner. While you were talking, our researchers were finalizing the complete scan of your entire consciousness. Took a while, but then again we never had a chance to actually test it on a living Zrakan before. But now that we have what we need, it opens up a significant number of possibilities. Is the transfer ready? Good. Then hit the switch and let us show our guest what I mean.
What happened? Where am I? What is this abomination? What have you done to it? What have you done to me?
Oh, we just wanted to see if perhaps the other you would not be more forthcoming with information.
The light. I can't see. The light. Stop this madness, Shadow. You may take control of our bodies and corrupt our minds. Kill us if you so desire, but dare not defile our souls.
Your soul hasn't been defiled, friend. It has just been copied, if it even exists, that is. But as for your plea, I'm afraid we cannot give you death, because that's what you want, and you do not deserve to have your wishes fulfilled at this point, not with blood of Nidira's citizens on your hands. But you can rejoice, Draken, for we will still help you with your mission. While we will hold on to that second version of you and try to prod it for more info, you will embark on a journey like a true missionary. Once we're done here, we will transfer your consciousness into a little probe. Nothing much, just a single external camera, a high-efficiency engine and small antimatter reactor.
Once you're there, we'll point you out of the galaxy and let you go, so you can bring the light with you to the void between the stars. The engine is just a commercial one, so it will probably take you a few 100,000 years to reach the nearest galaxy, but there's no need to worry. The reactor should keep you up and running all this time. Who knows, maybe you will even find more souls worthy of salvation, though, to be honest, I can't shake the feeling that, in a way, we are saving your life from a far worse fate. But that no longer concerns you. Farewell, Zrakan. Have a safe journey. It would seem that news of Zrakan's demise have been exaggerated, and they are still here, though now they seem to be located on the completely opposite side of the galaxy and style themselves as a Zrakan Tribunal. And that actually raises more questions than answers, like how they got there without anyone noticing, or what's their objective now. Hopefully, we'll be able to extract some information out of that capture Zrakan Thadrakans have given us, but until that happens, we'll have to keep an eye on them. Though, sadly, we probably won't be able to make good on our threat and actually attack them. The distance itself is not a problem, we could always secure passage through Intent and Thadraka's territory, but with the light still somewhere out there, sending our forces on such long mission would leave our home completely undefended. And, although the new Zrakan Tribunal appears to own only a single planet in a single system, we suspect that we would have to use our entire fleet to bring them to justice, due to that mysterious Guardian they mentioned. Now, we do not know what it is, and some of our staff officers claim that it may just be a bluff, but at this point I think it's safe to say that we should not underestimate the Zrakan anymore. Maybe they have summoned yet another one of these light creatures like the one we saw in Shizri space. Regardless, while we're going to stay behind for now, the Intent declared war on the Tribunal as soon as we told them about their existence. No wonders there, considering that Nidira was one of the Intent's planets. So, the Cult of Light now has a very dangerous alliance gunning for them, but it's actually a bit more complicated. While one of the Intent's states, the Beldros Collective, formerly known as Concordat of Fenhalor, actually borders this new Zrakan territory, they are the only ones who can reach it. Other factions like Alers or Shalanis cannot go there because they would have to cross Thadraka's space, and as we know, the Intent and Celestial Alliance are not exactly on good terms. So hopefully the Beldros will be enough to bring the fanatical plans to justice, although when they sent several probes towards Tribunal space, they realized something odd. Surprisingly, it looks like the Zrakan have actually been rewarded for their actions, because their new homeworld seems to be a Gaia world, similar to our Zanam or Kodria. Still, whether this is a reward or not, it doesn't change the fact that the Zrakan are still around, and they're no doubt going to cause all of us even more trouble in the coming years. So, the best thing that we can do right now is to broadcast their position to the entire galaxy and hope that someone closer to them will wipe them out before that happens. However, our broadcast had one unintended side effect. We have received quite a lot of responses, mostly focused on various descriptions on what we should do with the Zrakan once we finally lay our hands on them. But one of these messages stood out, because it arrived from a completely unexpected place. The Shizri Council, a nation that, until now, never really initiated contact with any other civilization on their own. And then, they surprised our diplomatic teams even further by going straight to business and asking if we could share with them data about Zrakan brainwashing. After consulting our Amathi speakers, for whom this is still a touchy subject, we answered that sure we could, but we would first like to know why they need such data, and with considerable reluctance the Shizri gave us the answer. Turns out that pretty much at the same time when our people were attacked by mind-controlled psionics, population of Shizri world of Coltran has suddenly cut all communications with the rest of their nation and claim that they have been showed the error of their ways and will work to repent for their sins. And when Shizri said population, they meant entire one. In a single moment, entire planet just dropped whatever they were doing and started chanting in Zrakan language, which they had no way of knowing before. The Shizri responded by sending their armed forces there to bring the planet back under control, but as soon as first landers approached the surface, the soldiers just joined the ranks of other converts. Terrified at the prospect of losing their entire army to some bizarre form of mind control, Shizri government called for full retreat from the system, but not before millions of their soldiers defected. But as they were retreating from the system, they received another message from the surface. The people of Colthren, it said, were now enlightened and part of Zrakan Tribunal, and any further interventions would bring light wrath upon the rest of the Shizri. And so, a military cordon around the system has been established, and the Shizri, disgusted at the very idea of it, decided that now may be a good time to ask others for help. Hopefully, with our data, they will find a solution, and with luck, they won't be forced to slaughter their own people. That's not the end of bad news from beyond our borders, though. While we were busy trying to establish new relations with the Shizri by helping them out with their problem, far in the west, the small Laginchu's enlightened kingdom decided that intense war against the Zrakan is a perfect moment to grab some territory from the Beldrils, because their fleets have now left their borders. And on its own, that wouldn't be a problem. Both of these states are relatively small, and their fleets cannot compare to ours, so they wouldn't offer much help in our fight against the Light. But unfortunately, their war almost immediately spiraled out of control. First, leadership of the Intent demanded that Thardrakas and Fedurans should denounce the attack and bring their fellow state to heel. The technocracy seemed receptive to this offer at first, but the families refused outright, and in an internal vote, together with the Laginchus, they brought the entire Celestial Alliance to war. The Intent responded in kind, which means that right now, two greatest alliances that encompass almost entirety of southern part of the galaxy are at war with each other. And again, taken out of context, it is something that really was inevitable, but it doesn't change the fact that this is absolutely the worst moment for such war. The Light is still out there, and it can appear at our doorstep at any moment, and instead of protecting their citizens, both these federations would rather send their forces to die in some pointless conflict. Not to mention that it looks like the situation in the north, whatever it is growing worse and worse at an alarming rate. And let's face it, if this Ravages, one of the fiercest, most powerful nations in the galaxy, is having problems, then we should start taking all this far more seriously. And that is why the Commonwealth decided to take action. At first, we tried contacting leaders of both Celestials and the Intent and talk them out of their stupid war. Unsurprisingly though, our efforts failed. Both sides even used the exact same arguments to counter us. Yes, they are aware that the Light, the Zrakan, and whatever else is out there is clearly a greater threat, but they cannot focus on that greater threat until they remove their long-standing rivals, and ensure that they won't stab them in the back at a critical moment. Even worse, both federations seem to be expecting that the Light will appear in other sides' territory and provide enough a distraction for them to gain an advantage. Even the normally peaceful Alir seem to be fully on board with this conflict, which clearly means our words won't have the desired effect. So in that case, we'll have to resort to more direct actions. And for the first time in almost half a century, we will open our databanks and once again share our technology, although only with the Intent, though it is not a decision that was taken lightly. After all, we have really good relations with both families and the Union. Still, we can't forget that, while they are charismatic, their Thardrakas are still cannibalistic slavers, so once all is said and done, it's better for the Intent to win this conflict. And with our technology, which is by the way decades ahead of anything that our neighboring federation has, the Alir and their team will hopefully wrap this war up quickly, because we may need their support sooner rather than later. At this time, we have also decided to unfreeze our diplomatic channels with the Fafs in Dominion, not out of any sympathy for them, but simply because they are the closest to this territory, so maybe they have some ideas about what was happening there. With that in mind, we tried to contact them, but to our surprise, the response was just some garbled static. Clearly, they have responded to our message, but their answer has been corrupted. So we tried again, aiming our comm arrays at different Fafs in systems, until finally we managed to link up with one of their planetary administrators, who spared no time, and before our people even had a chance to greet them, they shrieked into the communicator demanding reinforcements. It took our diplomats a while to calm the terrified Fafsim down and explain that we have no idea what they were talking about. However, instead of answering, the alien just switched us to the feed from one of the Fafsim orbital stations, and although it might have seemed impossible just a few days ago, all of a sudden the light lost its first place on the list of our most pressing problems. Because it turns out that by now almost entire Fafsim, and possibly this space, has been overrun by something that we have never seen before. According to the Dominion, around a year ago, massive armadas of entities made seemingly out of pure energy swarmed from within this territory and started slaughtering everything in their path. At first, the Fafsim thought that maybe this was some sort of new Dis weaponry, since these new invaders were just as ruthless as the Ravagers themselves, but then they realized that these mysterious fleets engaged all targets indiscriminately, whether Dis or Fafsim ones. They tried to talk with them, but there was no response, and any attempt at approaching them was met with force so devastating that nothing we have seen up to this point could stand up to it. Within months, Fafsim defenders were destroyed, and by now most of their planets were under siege and there was practically no way to reach or even contact them. But at the very least, we now know what's happening, and though it's not good, we can at least start making steps to prepare for it. Or so we thought. Because on a dark morning of 17th of May, crew of one of our stations located in the Kazoo system woke up and realized that their sensors picked up a signal that looked similar to the ones emanated by these invader fleets. And though the crew dismissed it at first, after all, these signals can be heard all across the galaxy, they soon realized that this particular one was different, and it was coming not from afar, but from within their own system. In the next minute, a massive wormhole opened less than 1 million kilometers away from our outpost, and mere seconds later swarms of these odd glowing ships poured through, charging at our station with full speed, their energy readings off the charts. Shocked by this, the crew still rushed to defensive stations and sent off an emergency broadcast, but by the time it reached the next system, the Kazoo station was gone. The ships fired some kind of energy beams that just removed the station from existence in a matter of seconds. Now, we still had some other stations there, the mining and a wormhole one, and as soon as they realized what was happening, the crews of these outposts rushed to escape shuttles and fled the system. But fortunately, they left their sensors up, so we can now monitor the situation there. And it seems that as soon as the stations were abandoned, invading fleets lost all interest in them. Instead, they departed in all directions, possibly to scout or secure their new territory, and that gave us a chance to observe them a bit. And we have to be honest here. If those things are hostile towards us, then there is nothing we can do to stop them. Their fleets emanate so much energy that it is clear that their weapons are decades or even centuries more advanced than ours. Their very movement is completely insane, as these ships, at least we assume these are ships, appear to be breaking some laws of physics, and if our readings are correct, they constantly blink in and out of existence. But most importantly, it looks like there is far more of them on the other side of that wormhole. Few days after first two armadas, one of them extremely powerful, appeared in Kazoo system, another one entered through the wormhole, and then another one. By the end of the month, there were 5 of them, and even smallest one appeared to be far more powerful than our entire combined military. So, the Commonwealth issued Alert Level 1, cordoned off the Kazoo system, restricted almost entirety of civilian movement, and aimed every single sensor array at our new visitors. But all reports show it clearly. If these things decide to attack us, we're dead. It may be a good idea to start looking for an escape route yet again. Looking for any kind of solution will take time, however, and it quickly became clear that these visitors were not here to make friends. As next months went by, their fleets moved to neighboring systems, destroying everything in their path, and finally, in September 2314, they reached our first inhabited system, Mazaka, home of the Yadrons. Our defensive stations pulled them into firing range, which means that our interdictors walk against them, good news, but it was actually a very bad idea to do so, because as soon as they finished their jump, the visitors fired all their weapons and vaporized our entire defensive perimeter in a matter of minutes. And when we say vaporized, that's precisely what we mean, because there are no wreckages left once the invaders are done. Instead, their weapons seem to completely disintegrate everything they fire at, not leaving behind even single atoms. fascinating, but it also means that Masaka is now once again in grave danger. Or is it? Despite taking out our stations, the invaders just left as soon as they were done, as if they were uninterested in attacking us any further. Maybe, some theorized, they no longer consider us a threat at this point. Maybe they're not interested in planets but in the space itself. But then again, how could we explain the fact that they have clearly attacked Fafsim and this planet? But then we received an answer, and it came once more from the Kazoo system. We were monitoring movement of original invaders, and we realized that some of their fleets started moving towards our territory, ignoring everything in their path. At first, we thought that maybe they wanted to link up with their comrades, but the truth turned out to be completely different. As soon as original blue invaders reached Kazoo system, they opened fire at the orange ones. The orange ones responded in kind, and soon both armadas were engaged in a massive scale battle, with others approaching from all directions, probably to join it. So, that's both odd but also promising news. The visitors may be hostile towards us, but it's nothing compared to the apparent hatred they have for each other. After all, it looks like they're willing to drop everything and just charge straight at their differently colored counterparts with no regard for their own safety. Once again, it would be best if they kept their fight to themselves, but now, at the very least, we have something that we can use. As long as they fight each other, we have a window of opportunity we can use to mobilize, and the first part of it is making sure that everyone in the galaxy knows what the real threat is at this point. And to our surprise, it looks like some galactic civilizations are actually willing to listen, though sadly the Entente and Celestial Alliance are still at each other's throats. But the greatest surprise was the response from Chisri Council. They, a nation that guarded its privacy as fiercely as Dis or Imperials, have contacted us and offered to work together to take on these invaders. They even opened their borders to us, claiming that the ability to move freely may be an important factor in the coming conflict. So, it looks like our gesture of goodwill towards them earlier actually paid off, and we may finally have a chance to learn more about their enigmatic civilization. Except not really, because, well, now really is not the time for studying xenoanthropology. Still, if even isolationists like the Shizri can recognize just how deadly this new threat is to us all, then it bodes well for our future diplomatic efforts, and hopefully our unexpected alliance against these invaders will grow even larger. But while all this was happening, back on Ortus, in a small cell very deep underground, interrogation of 27th copy of Capture's Rakan yielded some unexpected results. Although calling it interrogation is not really true at this point, and even torture is not strong enough. Still, morality aside, and it's debatable if we can even afford morality at this point, we have learned a small scrap of intel. Not much, but it's a lead. Namely, the Zrakan told us about the mysterious organization that calls itself Caretakers, that has, apparently, been in this galaxy for hundreds of thousands of years and, in recent centuries, cooperated with the Zrakan Union to ensure the coming of the light, which was the event that began this downward spiral of chaos we are in now. So we asked the prisoner where we could find these caretakers, so we could have a word with them, and the answer was one of those that really is obvious once you learn it. Turns out, we have met the caretakers before, only to us, they presented themselves as Order of Curators, that reclusive organization based in a single, extremely advanced station orbiting a lone black hole in galactic south. An organization that clearly had access to some extremely advanced technology, but, aside from some very minor scraps, wasn't really willing to share. So that's it. It may not be much, but at the very least we now have a lead and a target. We immediately tried to contact the curators, but they were not responding. We sent a patrol skiff there to try and contact them directly, but they just received automated warning message to keep their distance. So, after some heated debate, the decision was made. We will risk everything and send our navy south in order to get some answers. It means leaving our home territory open to attack, but, as was said, we wouldn't be able to defend against the invaders anyway. Getting intel out of the caretakers may be our only chance to survive this mess, so that is precisely what we're going to do. Manticore, Archon and Eagle have been ordered to move out and make the caretakers give us the info we need, even if we'll have to beat the answers out of them. Comms established, all fleets linked up. We're ready for the daily debriefing.
Apologies, Admiral, but I'm afraid today you will have me to deal with. Sorry for dropping in unexpectedly.
That's not a problem, but what happened? Usually it's just one of the staff officers who deals with these reports.
True, but considering the importance of your mission and everything that changed since you left, I think it's only fair you get full info from me from time to time.
Fair enough. What's the situation then?
Let's start with the good news first, since we clearly do need them. The home front is still secure for now. Aside from some minor incursions into neighboring systems and that one attack on Yadron capital, our visitors mostly keep to themselves, although that's probably only because they are too busy fighting each other. In fact, this conflict between them seems to absorb their full attention. All of their fleets are now either engaged in combat or are moving to support them. Whatever issues they have, it's clear that they would rather kill each other than us, for now at least, which gives us a window to prepare. How long that window will last we do not know, but it's clear we'll need it. Right now their fleets could probably destroy us even if entire galaxy banded together, which makes your mission all the more important.
So we still have some time to act. Good. But do we actually know why they are killing each other?
Not really. They ignore all attempts at communications, or perhaps they are unable to talk to us. Only thing we know for sure is that both groups seem to be hell-bent on destroying Portal of the opposing side, which means that, if they succeed, we'll have one less issue to deal with. Assuming we're right, that is. All of this intel we have right now is purely hypothetical, but we do learn new things about our visitors every day. For all their hostility, they don't really seem to mind being observed, and by now, we have over 1,000 automated probes in Kazoo system, monitoring their every move. I'd like to say that this is because they are sloppy, but in all probabilities we're simply beneath their notice.
That may be an advantage in itself, but about these drones, what have we managed to learn from them?
Quite a lot, as I said. Most importantly, we got tons of readings on visitors' weapons, and that's another thing that may give us some more time. Those beams they use, our research teams call them disintegrators, operate by removing matter from existence, either by destroying it or transporting it somewhere else. It makes them efficient against our ships, but almost useless against their own, since they're made, as far as we can tell, almost entirely out of energy. That means that every time they engage each other, their battles last forever. That battle that began in Kazoo 3 months ago is still going on, for example. But the bad news is that our guests are clearly here to stay. We have observed some additional ships moving through the gate, and they deployed some kind of structures around the system, possibly fortifications or resupply stations. Whatever they are, though, they seem to be just as dangerous as their fleet, and that, paired with the fact that we have no idea how many of them are on the other side, well, truth is the situation doesn't look good at all. Unless we find a solution, we're only delaying the inevitable.
I'll make sure to say that to the curators when we finally meet them. Was there anything else?
Yes, we have some news from diplomatic front. We're making progress, but it all takes too long. Still, there are some good news. The Yadrans signed a pact of non-aggression with the rebels, reopened diplomatic channels with us, and seem willing to cooperate in military matters. The Ahadis and Jirs have pledged their support as well, and we even got an offer of alliance from Miravandians to the south. They may not be strong individually, but together they should muster enough power to be of use, assuming they will work together, of course.
Good news, true, but those are small players. Any progress on resolving the Idiots' War?
Some, but as you said it, they're idiots. Alice and some Drithans in the Intent may be willing to end the war, but their votes are countered by Shalanis and Beldros who cry out for blood. And in Celestial Alliance, only Fifthgrounds want to stop fighting. Our delegations have made some progress though. We managed to convince Hagen family to support peace talks. Given time, we should be able to get rest of them to see reason. Whether or not we have that time is another question though.
I see. And have we learned anything from our new best friends?
Not much. Shizri may understand the danger, but they still don't trust us, and it's debatable if they ever will. Not that easy to overcome centuries of isolation. Still, we have some more news from Coltrane, and it's worse than it was on New Sajar by a significant margin. Basically, it's an entire planet of mind-controlled slaves, but without a single slave master in sight, and their actions are not looking good either. A portion of their people established a defensive perimeter and built a few warships, but Shizri fleet could take them out at any time. They just don't want to shoot at their own people, brainwashed or not. But the rest of the population all started digging with machines, pickaxes, or their bare claws if needed.
They're clearly looking for something, but we have no idea what for.
It would be nice to have a normal enemy for once. You know, one with actual military secrets, not otherworldly mysteries. But it's not like we have any choice at this point. But just tell me, Prime Minister, what are our odds of success here, really?
I don't know. The situation evolves too fast to say for sure, and we still have high hopes for your mission. But I think it's telling that, for the first time in a century, we're actually trying to fix the gateway back to Earth. That should tell you everything you need to know.